I'm Jon Stotts, the Director of Adult Faith Formation here at Christ the King. And I'm here with Brittany Meriwether, who for some time now has been working with Christ the King's anti-racism ministry to build solidarity in Nashville among all Catholics and to raise awareness about a variety of anti-racist efforts and educational opportunities. And she's here today to talk to me about something she's helped to coordinate that's new for our parish, a celebration of Juneteenth, which will take place next Monday, June 20th, at 5:30 on the Christ the King school field. We'll be gathering together with anyone who wants to come and help us celebrate Juneteenth. And we wanted to talk a little bit today about this holiday and about why Christ the King has chosen to feature it as a special celebration. Brittany teaches English and social studies at Christ the King School. She's been teaching for, I think, 14 or 15 years now as a graduate of Christ the King School herself and Father Ryan. She is mother to Isla and Eli, who are both students at that school, and has many gifts to share with us today. So maybe, Brittany, tell us a little bit about Juneteenth, what it is, and how you got to know about this important holiday.
Well, thank you, Jon, for that introduction. Juneteenth, I really did not know a lot about it growing up, and I really didn't hear about it in school. So I would say my first encounter with Juneteenth would be last year when it was announced as a federal holiday. I think that just kind of spurred a little bit of interest and knowledge into the holiday to figure out, what it was. As an educator, I'm curious about new legislation and new things that are passed, and have to do a lot of research myself to figure out, is this something that I should be teaching my students? And so, I've done a lot of reading, and basically Juneteenth is that Freedom Day of celebrating freedom for all people, specifically enslaved people in Texas. So after the Emancipation Proclamation was signed or put into effect, the Union soldiers their job is basically enforce that message of freedom for all. Now, it didn't effectively free all enslaved people, but it's very symbolic in that it's giving enslaved people that momentum of, okay, we're emancipated, we are free in the South, in the Confederate States. And so the Union is going to march through the South, right, and west towards Texas. And the last place that they brought this message to was Galveston, Texas. And so you have effectively the last people, learning that they are indeed free. And I think that's something to celebrate. So we actually, our family, my kids and my husband and I, we were in Cincinnati last summer, and we went to a Juneteenth celebration that was actually at the Underground Railroad Museum. It was right outside. It was really beautiful, and a great celebration, very family friendly, and it was just something really special. So I wanted to celebrate Juneteenth here in Nashville, and I wanted to try to organize something that that I could kind of take back home, and that everyone could kind of experience that same feeling of celebrating freedom for all.
Yeah, I also only recently learned about Juneteenth, and of course, President Biden declared it to be a federal holiday last year. Before that, was anyone celebrating it? Did he create this holiday out of nowhere, or how long has it existed as a holiday?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think people were celebrating Juneteenth, especially in Galveston, like that. They have, and I could be getting my facts wrong, but I'm pretty sure that it's like a grassroots movement, and there is in the community there to buy land to actually make a memorial park. And they do big celebrations in Galveston, and also bigger cities, Atlanta. I know they have a big celebration. Like I said, I was in Cincinnati, and they were celebrating it, but I think it's been celebrated since basically that day. I think there was a huge celebration. I mean, I can't imagine, being someone that was enslaved and didn't have the freedom, but then finally getting the message that, hey, you're free. That's got to be something that, I mean, is definitely worth celebrating, right? And probably almost unbelievable that your life was going to change that much. And so, yes, it's been celebrated nationally. I don't think there was a push to celebrate it. I do think after, the killing of George Floyd and, the incidences that happened, in 2020, and with Black Lives Matters, I think that movement, I think that there was a push to celebrate freedom for Black and brown people, African Americans in this country. And I do think that, it was quickly pushed through with Congress, but I think that there wasn't a lot of pushback on it, which I think is good. How can you celebrate freedom when not all people are truly free, right? And now, in today's society, we're not talking about enslavement, but there's other ways systematically that put down other people. So how can we fight to keep freedom alive for all people, right? So how can we fight injustices? How can we fight for peace for all? And I think that, showing up and celebrating Juneteenth is a way that we can all get behind a common celebration like freedom.
Yeah. I want to come back to this idea of Juneteenth as a community celebration of freedom. But first, can you tell us a little bit more about, the celebration in Cincinnati that you experienced? What kind of significance did it have for your family to see this celebration?
Well, I think, my family is a multiracial family. My husband is Black. My children are biracial. I try to imagine things from their eyes, and it's hard sometimes, right? Because they, like, when we attend events at Christ the King, when they're going to school, they do not see families that look like our family. I mean, that's their reality. And so I think it's good to, travel outside of what they normally see. And, like, we can go to a celebration and we're seeing Black and brown families, multiracial families celebrating this together. And that's not to say that, this is not a holiday that should not be celebrated by white people. I think that at that celebration in Cincinnati, I saw people of all races there celebrating freedom of African Americans. And I think it was beautiful to see the support and the love for that common, that love for freedom, that respect, and that, just celebrating other people's freedom, gaining their freedom. I think that's really important. I want my kids to see, all kinds of diversity in the world. And I don't want them to think that, that there's something, wrong with our family, or, our family is, not a legitimate kind of family, because they just don't see it out in the world. And so I think in this way, to promote diversity and people of all different backgrounds, nationalities, cultures coming together to celebrate freedom, I think that's really powerful. And I think it's powerful for kids to see that when they're growing up, when they're younger.
So you've kind of hinted at this. Some people might think of Juneteenth as, an African American holiday, and especially as we're talking about freedom. There's another holiday that we tend to celebrate in the summer that is called Independence Day, right? The 4th of July. So what does it mean for people to celebrate both of these holidays, to celebrate Juneteenth in June, and then to go on and celebrate the 4th of July? Do you think they're celebrating the same kinds of things? Why do we need yet another celebration of freedom when we have a perfectly good one, that was founded in 1776?
Yeah. I think that the 4th of July is a very powerful holiday as well, Independence Day. But I think that, when we think about when Independence Day it was originally celebrated, and it had been celebrated for a while before, Juneteenth actually occurs, that there's a lot of people left out of Independence Day, right? So there's a lot of, I guess, conflicting ideas that are going on with the country, with the Constitution, with the Declaration of Independence. And, Black and brown people were left out of that. Women were left out. So I think to celebrate Juneteenth, I don't think it takes the place of the 4th of July. I think they're, separate ideas, but I think they're both celebrating freedom. You've got Independence Day, but it's important to note that some people couldn't celebrate Independence Day until they were truly free. Right. So then that's where we have Juneteenth coming in as a holiday to say, yes, not all people were free in this country until, 1865. That was when the last people knew, okay, we're free. Like we have the freedom to, leave, leave where we are, to not be considered property.
Yeah. Yeah, it strikes me that it does seem important to have, this holiday celebrating the founding event of this country's freedom in principle. And then another marker 100 years later, give or take, saying, and we're going to continue to celebrate the freedom that we're continuously trying to affirm and create and practice, so that we see that freedom is something that has to be won. It's not something we can just declare, but we have to make it a reality. And I know you're familiar with Frederick Douglass's 1852, what to the slave is the 4th of July, making this point that, this is the celebration of something that is not extended to enslaved peoples. And so it doesn't make sense to celebrate it until everyone can celebrate it.
Exactly.
So it's a federal holiday, but it's not a religious holiday. It's not a day on the Catholic liturgical calendar. So why are we as Catholics, as a Catholic parish, why is it important that we offer space and attention to this holiday instead of leaving it to to the civic aspect of our society?
Well, I think when we look at our social justice teachings of the Catholic Church, one of those themes is solidarity. And I think that solidarity is really important for every social change movement, right? So we've got to be there to support, we've got to be there to, even if we're not, actually saying something, we are there in body, we are there to show up to, and because I think when I say like not say anything, I think it kind of comes in almost like a staircase, like steps, of how you can show allyship and support to Black and brown people and multiracial families. And I think the first step is just to be there, right? So, if we're celebrating Juneteenth, and you think this is not the holiday for me, or I've never celebrated this before, there's this idea that you're putting yourself out there, like you're in a vulnerable situation because you don't know about this. It wasn't part of your heritage or your history. But the solidarity part as Catholics and showing up for somebody, even though it's not in our culture or it's not in our family history, that's really important, because when people start to see, hey, I've got people backing me up, I've got people that support my family no matter what the color of our skin is, you start to get this investment in the community, in everybody. And it's, even though I might not see a lot of families that look like my family, that's okay, because I know that my church community, the people that I sit next to, at 8:30 Mass on Sunday, they've come to support me on a Monday, because they think that my family is beautiful and they want to support Black and brown people in Nashville. And I think that that's the first step, showing up. And then once people start showing up, we can start building relationships and having these conversations that bring people together and really, create value and love and really investment in each other. And I really can't think of a lot of other things that are more beautiful than that.
Yeah. It seems to me that, the movement to free enslaved peoples, which was so tremendously important in our country's history, we would all agree, I think, that it was a movement of the Holy Spirit, that God was at work in that liberation. And I think we would also agree that it didn't come from the Catholic Church in this country, which is, it's a tough pill to swallow when we realize that, the Bishop of Galveston owned slaves, and that the church had to be told in many places, Catholics had to be told in many places that they had to stop buying and selling people. And they had to be told this by the government, not, even though the Pope had declared it, no one was listening. And then that history would repeat itself 100 years later when, this diocese had to be told to desegregate our schools. We did not do it ahead of time. And so I think that's also, solidarity with people who are not Catholic, seeing that God is working through, through these movements in this country that are not identifiable with a single religious tradition. For me, especially, that's really important and something worth celebrating.
Yeah.
So in terms of solidarity, nothing brings people together like food, right? So can you,
Exactly.
a final question, can you tell us a little bit more about what we can expect at 5:30 on Monday, June 20th, if we show up?
Yes. So we're going to do it on the field so that there's playground equipment, for kids to enjoy, and maybe a soccer ball or two out there on the field. We're going to have pulled pork and, chicken from Martin's Barbecue from across the street. And we'll have coolers of ice and popsicles. We just want to make this a very family friendly event, but also, if you don't have kids, if you're single, if you are not a member of the parish, but you're curious about Juneteenth, and you hear about it from a friend, I want everyone to feel welcome to come and enjoy and celebrate this holiday with us. We might or might not have some water play for the kids. We're still in the works of organizing that. So if you're a parent, maybe bring a towel and an extra set of clothes, maybe some PJs that you can change your kids into for the ride home. But it's going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be food. If you want to bring a side dish or a drink, you can bring that, but it's not required at all. And we'll just have a good time.
Okay. If I'm not a parent and I want to bring my swimsuit and run around in the sprinkler, is that okay?
Go for it. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Brittany, for chatting a little bit about this. And for anyone watching, we do hope to see you on the ball field at 5:30 next Monday to celebrate Juneteenth.
Yes. Thank you so much.